This is the Shiftheads Podcast with Shane Hewitt and friends.
Welcome to the Shiftheads Podcast. I'm Shane Hewitt. Steve Stebbing is here. What the hell should we watch? Hi, Steve.
Hello. How's it going, Shane?
Good. We'll get your clip coming up here of the official "What Should We Watch" things that you put together, and it's available at your Steve Will Dead link down in the description thing down below. If you want to hook up with that, follow Steve. That'd be awesome. Follow us here. That'd be great too. And I don't want to. I find I'm watching more shows. I don't know if it's I don't know if I'm actually watching more shows or I'm being more intentional with my shows, Steve. I've been watching that aviation show, the new one on Apple.
Yes, Masters of the Air. It's the new Playtone series, which is Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg producing.
Yeah, and so it's got the undertones of the Greyhound style, actually, of the movie he did. But it's I like it because it's airplanes. I'm not quite sure though about it so far for me and what I've gone through. And
sorry, hold on a second. That's right. Sorry,
you're good.
Just had another guest on the Shiftheads here.
Oh, that's good. Okay, here we go. I'll just pick up from there.
Sure.
And it's got a lot of the Greyhound sort of style of Tom Hanks from the movie Apple, but it does I love it because it's airplanes. And I've been watching it because it's, the big bombers and everything else in World War II. But I'm not quite sure I like the storyline a whole lot. What are you finding with it?
It's a little bleak.
It doesn't really do anything. The characters have been gone now for a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, because now we don't want to get into a little bit of spoiler territory here, but there are characters that show up and the actors that play them. I'm like, oh yes, I'm excited about it, and then I'm like, oh wait, okay,
yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler. It's a war, so things happen in the war.
So people do die, planes get blown out of the sky and stuff
like that. But they were developing the storyline, and maybe that's the point, right? Maybe you never get to know the storylines of the characters. Maybe that's where they get to, is that never complete. There's never good news at the end of it because nobody ever makes it. I don't know, but I was just curious your thoughts of it because I like it because it's airplanes, but the storyline is kind of meh.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for Masters of the Air is it is a Playtone series, so it's coming on the heels. I mean, you mentioned Greyhound, but it's also coming on the heels of greater things, in my opinion. Like Band of Brothers was produced by Playtone for HBO. The Pacific was produced by HBO and Playtone as well. Arguably, those are leaps and bounds better series than Masters of the Air. And this isn't to say Masters of the Air is not worth your time. It is. I think it's a decent show, but yeah, it does have some failings to it for sure. And feeling ingrained with the story and with the characters, I think is a big gaffe. And I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, and maybe it's because they that's what happened in the war. You didn't get to know anybody. Maybe that's the point. I find that it's a bit of a letdown. It's kind of the same episode over and over and over again. They go to Africa and then all of a sudden they're home, right? They're just big gaps. I don't know. And get your thoughts on a couple other more things. I don't know if you watch NCIS Hawaii. I'm a big any Hawaii show.
Sure. Yeah.
The new season has started, and Sam Hanna from NCIS LA, which that series ended, has magically appeared, which is LL Cool J for those who don't know. And he's just amazing always. I just watch anything that he's in just because he's cool. But he's showed up on this new season of the series. First couple episodes are out. Looks like he's sticking around, to be determined.
Yeah, I mean, there's 11 to 13 seasons of NCIS LA. So, I mean, once you're in the family, yeah. Oh, I love Chris O'Donnell in that series as well. But once you're you're part of the family, then you're in it for life. It's like the mob.
You're like the mob. You can't.
It's like the mob. You can't get out. Every time you want out, they pull you back in.
Yeah, it's a good show. I love it. If you have not had a chance to see it, give it a go. Is there anything else that you want to touch on here before we get into the big video?
I would like people to watch. I'll cover it next week on my video because I just started watching season 2. But Tokyo Vice is back on Max, which airs on Crave here. It's Ansel Elgort, Ken Watanabe. Ansel Elgort's an American that moves to Japan to further his journalist career, and finds himself writing about the Yakuza. Probably not a good thing if you want longevity in Japan, but the tension in it is so damn good. It's produced by Michael Mann, and I thought season 1 was going to be like, okay, that's one and done, but no, we got a season 2, so I'm really happy about that right now.
Bob Marley documentary on Netflix, the new Bob Marley movie, which is amazing. If you know the story, nobody could touch Bob Marley's music while his mom was around. And when Bob Sinclair came out with The Sun is Shining, I don't know, 2001, 2000, everybody in the music industry was shocked because nobody got to touch Bob Marley's music. Then all of a sudden, Bob Sinclair did. And the word was that his mom was a part of every piece of the puzzle. And before anybody could hear it, she got to put a stamp on it. Now, since then, the family has opened up a little bit about all things Bob Marley. And we're starting to see more and more of it. Have you had a chance to get in some insight on the movie?
I will say that that Kingsley Ben-Adir for the movie, Bob Marley One Love, does a really great performance as Bob Marley, which is, I mean, we've seen footage and posters and all this stuff like for so long, and he's such an icon. So sometimes when you step into that role, there's a lot of trepidation, or can he get this right? And he gets it right. Just the movie feels a little too in the rut of biopic and doesn't really separate itself from it at all, but he's the reason to watch it. And if you love Bob Marley, you're going to go see this movie anyway. It's regardless. You're just going to go see this movie.
The coolest thing about Bob Marley is most people don't know anything about his life. And most people didn't get to experience a concert.
No.
Yet it's so timeless because the message that he lived into and wrote about was so timeless and so far ahead of his time. It's still so timeless. And yet the way his music makes you feel has sort of carried on. And that's the only thing I worry about, is that in the movie, how the music makes us feel is everything.
Yeah.
So does the movie carry the weight of that?
Yes, it carries the reverence and the love for the movie, for the music, for sure. And I think that was because Ziggy's a big producer on this one, and I know that was something he needed to get across. So I think the actual like representation of Bob, both as a human, as an artist, and as beyond what he was as a voice of the people, is well represented.
Well, that's really cool. I know that YG Marley's got more music out too, by the way. Like there's an awful lot that's going on in the family. And I used to love it on the Raga channel on Sirius XM. They used to have Marley Mondays, which they stopped.
Oh, nice.
And I think it's online only now. So it was all of the Marley family and extended family that made music. Also cool.
There's an album I bought the CD as soon as I heard the first track, and I was like hooked on it for a while, and I probably late 2000s, but Damian Marley did an album with Nas.
Oh, really?
And it's called Distant Relatives.
Okay.
And it's so freaking good.
Yeah.
It's an incredible album. It feels like it came and went without much like fanfare, but I mean, I've as far as hip hop, I've loved Nas for a long time. And then his mix with the reggaeton of Damian Marley just gels so beautifully.
Nice.
Really well.
You know, and I'm such a fan. That's cool. I didn't mean to step on you there, but yeah, the Welcome to Jamrock was such a ridiculously off the charts good song. So okay, before we go there, maybe we'll talk about this next week, but I wanted to ask the question: Society of the Snow.
Yes.
Is that a remake of Alive?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. But actually done by a Spanish director this time, and with a hard R rating, and definitely not your Universal Pictures, let's throw this movie in theaters, PG-13 type of thing.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. We'll talk about it in the future.
Sounds good.
SteveStebbing.ca if you want to connect with Steve, Shane Hewitt.ca for us. Shiftheads.ca takes us to the Facebook group online and connect with all of this. And please share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. So that helps us out a ton. You ready to roll it?
I'm ready to roll it. Let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing, and we're doing things a bit differently this week. Usually, my producer and editor, Chloe Stebbing, is unseen, but as of this week, she is our new co-host here. Hey, Chloe, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Nervous,
First
but I'm
podcast.
excited.
It's your first podcast, right?
Yes.
Which is kind of cool because you watched me start the whole podcasting procedure in like 2012. So
Yeah, and I was briefly on a podcast talking about The Sims. I don't know if it got aired or not because I kept moving around too much, but
but we're gonna try it out now. We're gonna try doing the two-person pod of What the Hell Should I Watch, which is gonna be a lot of fun because now rather than responding like afterwards and editing everything, you're gonna be responding to me in real time as well as
yeah.
editing as well. So you get like the double shot this time. But I teased last week that I'd be talking about Madam Web this week. I don't know if you've seen any of the reaction over the weekend to Madam Web and some of the TikToks that have been going on.
I have. I've seen Moist Critical respond to it, and a couple other people, I think, but it's not looking good. It's not looking like a great time.
No, and I mean, when the initial trailer came out for it, I knew that we're in some sort of a downward spiral because honestly, to me, it looked like it was put together by AI. Like it was just really
Other people were
weird.
saying that too.
Yeah, it was like janky looking and stuff, especially when it came to like Sydney Sweeney's costume and everything that looked like if maybe you look closely at the hands that they have like six fingers or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
definitely edges a little bit into I don't know if Uncanny Valley is the right classification for this, but it feels like, and this is just coming from somebody who's seen the trailers, but it looks like something that's trying to imitate everything that should be in a superhero movie and everything that is current day Marvel Cinematic Universe in a bad way. Like
yeah,
all the worst parts of it.
yeah, and I think that's exactly what the trailer would lead you to believe it was supposed to be because the movie is even messier and jankier than you could possibly even believe. I mean, my wife Jen and I went to see this one, and oh boy, there's just so many problems with it. Like even down to it makes all of those exposition errors that you hate like full on speaking back the like basic origin story or doing exposition really badly like after like there's one scene where the bad guy gives like full on exposition to a girl that he just took home from the club and it's like like why.
Monologuing all over her.
Yeah, there's so much monologuing in this movie that it's ridiculous.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing! I can't believe it.
And I mean the CG is horrendously ugly. Dakota Johnson is playing like the disaffected millennial like way too hard in this movie to the point where she is not just the reluctant hero, she's an asshole. Like there's just no way to get around it. She's just really not good in this movie.
I can see the future. Oh, what the hell? She didn't see that coming? That's not how it works. I've seen that man before. So who is he? Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
And I'm really wondering what the belief was behind Sony and Amy Pascal putting her as the lead character in this one, because I thought we learned from the 50 Shades movies, which I have never seen personally, that she's not really doesn't really have the charisma to lead a series, in my opinion.
No, and I definitely agree. And 50 Shades of Grey is a great example of that because she is quite literally not leading the movie. She's not leading anything. She's a slave. Like, that's her character in that. So it's weird to see her go from like, oh, she's mousy and she gets hit in a sex dungeon to, oh, she's Lady Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird jump. And it's not a jump that I think a lot of people, including myself, can tolerate.
No.
Because it's just so out of left field. Like, it's like, this is not what we've seen at all. And typically, it's really great when actors can jump out of, I guess, a type of like typecasting, right? That's every actor's worst fear. I don't know, just to go from that to an icon is odd.
Yeah. And all of this stuff is part of that Spider-Man adjacent Marvel Cinematic Universe from Sony, which includes the Venom movies, which I'm okay with, but they're bad.
I love the Venom movies.
They're objectively bad, not great movies, though, right?
Oh, I know, but they're fun.
They're fun. And then Morbius. Morbius is the other one that's in this Marvel adjacent stuff. The only reason to watch that movie is Matt Smith. He is clearly having a lot of fun in that movie, but it's just not good stuff. And it's crazy that Sony would release a movie that, I mean, if you screen this movie, you'd know it's not good, but it's crazy that they would release this when Warner Brothers has been making these decisions to shelve Batgirl. They're not going to release that Batgirl movie they made. They're also shelving this Looney Tunes versus Acme movie with John Cena and a bunch of people in it. They're shelving this movie. So if Warner Brothers making these movies for tax break reasons, and Sony was just like, we have a big horrendous CG piece of crap that has zero charisma whatsoever, has zero depth to it, and we're just going to throw it into theaters in February. I don't understand the motivations in either studios. Like, I feel like they're both so massively out of touch now.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. Like, and I found that that's the case with a lot of the like classic big production companies, like Goldwyn Mayer, for example. Universal's been pumping out some garbage. Like, production company means basically nothing anymore.
No.
And I also find the same thing with ratings. Ratings don't mean anything anymore either.
2023, there was just like weird marketing decisions, weird ways to get box office, weird way to astroturf the box office, like we saw with Sound of Freedom. Like, there's just so many weird marketing things now, and it's just it's interesting to see where the studio decides to put the money in, where they decide not to put the money. And at the end of it, I'm going to say they shouldn't have put money into Madam Web, because it feels like it was something that was doomed from the get-go. So do not see Madam Web. I hate crapping on movies. I really do. I like to be objective about it, but yikes. And next up this week is a film called The Land of Bad. This is a drone warfare action film with it's got Russell Crowe in it. Liam Hemsworth gets to do his own type of extraction thing, kind of like Chris Hemsworth did with those two films. Milo Ventimiglia is in this one, and Ricky Whittle, who was in The 100 and American Gods, I think was the other series he was in. But this is like an action basically an action thriller from William Eubank, who did that Kristen Stewart underwater thriller. Underwater it was called. Okay. Which is a decent film. I think that's the best thing he's done so far, because Land of Bad, it's an entertaining film, but it's nothing that's like must see. Like, basically Liam Hemsworth is a tech marine that is him and a squad led by Milo Ventimiglia are deployed in the Philippines, and they get caught behind enemy lines. The only one that can help them is a drone pilot, which is Russell Crowe's character, who is in like Las Vegas or whatever. There's a Air Force base to lead that. So I mean, and it feels like Russell Crowe's in his own movie entirely. There's like some really weird scenes. Like his wife's pregnant and but you never see her, and he's talking to her on the phone every now and then. And he's like in his own separate movie. And like this is 2024 Russell Crowe. Like he's such a far cry from the Gladiator Russell Crowe.
Tell me your name.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius. Commander of the armies of the North. Loyal servant to the true Emperor, Marcus Aurelius. Father to a murdered son. Husband to a murdered wife. And I will have my vengeance. In this life or the next.
He's not the world's sexiest man anymore. Like he is big fat Australian Russell Crowe now. So he's like,
Yeah.
He's not that dude anymore. And it's it kind of makes me laugh. I call it his post 2010 2015 career. I call it his after Unhinged.
Yeah.
Did you see Unhinged?
I saw it in theaters.
Oh shit, that would have been fun in theaters. Yeah,
I was excited. I enjoyed it just because I love car crashes. I love explosions. I love action. Like if it's cool to look at, I'm gonna look at it.
Yep.
Of course, the movie itself is abysmal.
Having a kind of a hard time lately. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not great.
No, like the script, everything is bad, but it's just a fun movie to watch. And that's how I feel about a lot of movies.
Yeah, and I feel like he doesn't take it seriously. Like he's in this part of his career where he's just not taking anything that seriously, I think. Which I think is actually like beneficial. I feel like once you get to that point in your career where you're just like, yeah, I'll just do whatever. Like that's where you get the Unhinged. That's where you get a little more play in your career. That's where you get to do movies like The Nice Guys. I don't know if you saw that one with Ryan Gosling.
I'm aware of it, but I haven't seen it.
That's like Hallmark movie.
Okay.
Write that down. Write that down.
Because that is such a good movie, and it kind of it's like a great combo of great actors and a great writer, because Shane Black wrote and directed that movie. Anyway, digress entirely. Land of Bad. If you're into those military type movies, you'll enjoy it. If you're looking for a John Wick actioner, nah, it's not it. It's not that type of a movie. And maybe some of that military stuff may be a little bit bland, especially if you've seen like the Mark Wahlberg ones, like Lone Survivor, or like those type of movies are a bit better. But Land of Bad was not bad.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Let's do a French film here, Chloe. We're gonna do a French film.
The last time we did a French film, it was Titane.
Oh, do you have some words to say about this near the end? Are we gonna have some words?
Words as I have about suitable flesh.
Okay.
But
okay. The end of this episode will be your rebuttals. We'll get some rebuttals in there. So this French film is The Taste of Things. It was originally called The Pot au Feu, which actually I like better as a title. I just hate it when North America has to come in and make things accessible. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think this title works better. But basically, and I'll read this off so I can get the synopsis right, because I feel like I'm not nailing synopsises very good on this show. So I should do a little bit better. So this is the story of Eugenie and Dodine, two longtime lovers and renowned chefs, but the definition of their relationship is yet to be determined over the course of the relationship. Is she his wife or is she his cook? Because a renowned cook, he refuses to cook around the house, so she does the cooking. So to give his ultimate message, he decides to cook for her one day. And this movie, it might come across as dull to a lot of people because it really is at its heart about the joy and the relationship of cooking and of eating and everything. But for that reason, I found it really interesting. And the film stars Juliette Binoche, who was like an incredibly famous French actress, and Benoit Megamel. And it's funny because the two were once married before, that now divorced, years divorced, but they were married before. And you can tell that they have a good knowledge of cooking because they're doing, I would say, all of the on-screen cooking. Like maybe there's a couple of stunt double hands here and there, but I think it's Juliette and Benoit doing all of the cooking, which is incredible to see, because even if if you just ate something going into this movie, I still think you would come out of it being like, I really got to eat some food right now. Like it's one of those foodie films, and I feel like those movies are rare. I can't really think of a lot of foodie films out there. There was that Jon Favreau movie Chef in like 2010 era. It was like about
the only other one that comes to mind would be The Menu.
The Perfect Cheeseburger.
Yeah. Which I haven't seen, but I've seen extensive coverage of it.
Okay, solid film. And also, I would agree, a film that cares about food as well. It cares about its representation on screen. And I think that that's really at the core what this film was about. And it's directed by a Vietnamese director named An Hong Tran, who is known for The Scent of the Green Papaya and Norwegian Wood, which were in the late 90s. No, sorry, early to mid 90s. Those movies came out. And very much an art director at his core. And just like beautiful. So of course this movie is beautifully shot from top to bottom, including like this incredible 360 shot through the kitchen near the end of the film to kind of like resolve it, that I thought was really nice to look at. Again, at its core, a foodie film and also an art film. So, I mean, you're going to know what you get into with this film. I don't know if I sent you the trailer for this one, but there was this Polish movie called Peasants, The Peasants, that takes place in the 19th century Poland, and basically follows one woman in her determination to find independence in just a brutal background where there's arranged marriages that threaten to get in the way of her independence. The town gossip that either calls her a demon, a slut, or a home wrecker, and all of this stuff. But it was all shot digitally, but then they painted over top of the film. It took 80,000 paintings, individual paintings, to make up this almost 2-hour film, and that used 1,350 liters or 300 gallons of paint to do this film, which is, I mean, it's incredible to look at. I think without this animation style on top of it, some of the story would have been a little dull, or maybe would have blended into the background of other films like this, because some of these stories, as important as they are a little bit a dime a dozen. Like we see a lot of these type of stories. But for it to be done in this way, it pops off the screen, so you're automatically interested in seeing it.
Right.
And so a gimmick really kind of sells this film.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's being brought up by a gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen this before, because there was a few years ago that they did a Vincent van Gogh film called Loving Vincent, where they did the paint style was that Van Gogh paint style. And that was really interesting as well. And knowing that subject matter a little bit more, I would probably lean towards that one being the better film. But this actress that they got to play this lead role of Yagna, her name is, I'm going to butcher this name because it's a Polish name, Kamila Urzadowska. They cast this woman from 600 candidates to play this role. And I mean, it's brutal. Like the abuse that they put this woman through, and for this to be this actress's first major performance, like hopefully that, Polish film puts her in a lot more stuff, because she honestly deserves it. And one scene in particular that I'll end off with, that kind of took the story into like almost like a horror angle, and it was the wedding scene because she's married off to the father of her lover, which is just a whole messed up thing. But there's like a dance afterwards, and the way that it was filmed and the way that the paint was working, it really reminded me of like some of Ari Aster's work in Midsommar, the breathing scene. You know what scene I'm talking about, right? Like,
Yeah.
it reminded me a bit of that, and how the horror just kind of ramps up, and it just feels like it's just like a ball growing in the center of a room. Like, I thought that was really interesting and really subversive, because this film isn't a horror film. Like, maybe dramatically horrifying, and the implications are horrifying, but not at its core. It's not a horror film. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So a Polish painted film. Don't get to say that very often. I sent you this one, so maybe eventually you can have a rebuttal on this one, but it was a Canadian film called Seagrass that
I
I
watched
sent.
the trailer.
It was an interesting film because I believe it played the festival last year, the Vancouver International Film Festival last year. And it's written and directed by Meredith Hama Brown, and stars Ali Mackey, who is in Randall Park's directorial debut, Shortcomings, which I really, really recommend. A really, really great film. But basically she plays a woman that is, her mother has just died, so she's taking her husband and their two daughters to Vancouver Island for it's like a self-improvement, family improvement retreat. It's kind of ambiguous at the start because when they get to this resort, you think, oh, they're just on vacation, but then all of a sudden they're in the kind of like almost support group like scenarios with other couples. So you realize, oh, okay, no, this is a self-help thing. This is trying to repair broken families type thing. And you start to realize that the grief over her losing her mother has kind of splintered and exposed the cracks in their entire family. So the husband, like, there's definitely a widening distance between the husband and wife. The oldest daughter, she's in the beginning of her teens, so she's falling hard into maybe that she needs to be the popular girl, and so she's heading down that route, while the little girl is essentially in her mind haunted by the ghost of her grandmother, kind of like. And they play, and the way that Hamas Brown plays it is in kind of like an existential sort of feel, that still feels kind of grounded in some sort of reality. And the fact that it's done on Vancouver Island, like so close, like we know the Pacific Northwest pretty well, being British Columbians. It feels relatable. And yeah, just beautifully shot, and probably a film that's wouldn't get a lot of attention if it hadn't done so well on award circuits between VIFF and Toronto International Film Festival, and it's getting screenings now in the US out of the result. So yeah, a little neck of the woods is getting a little bit of international flavor here.
Yeah, it's great to see something Canadian that, isn't coming from Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all Toronto, all of it.
I got
And it's a little overwhelming. And it's like, hey, it's an entire country, guys.
Yeah. They always feel it's the center of the world in anything, though. Like even in sports coverage and everything, it's always the Leafs and everything. Like it's always regarded as the center of Canada, even though they're on the far right side.
Yep.
Of the country, but
but nobody
whatever.
wants to go to the center.
No. Not sorry, Manitoba and Saskatchewan. All right, let's move on to another foreign film. This is a German film from Christian Petzold, who's a director I really, really like. He did films like Undine, Transit, and Phoenix. His new film is called A Fire, and it stars Paula Beer. This would be their third collaboration together. And this is one of those those writer, director, actress combinations that delivers every time, and always very human driven stories. But basically this follows a group of friends that head to a vacation home just along the Baltic Sea, when they find out that they're basically being encroached on by a wildfire that starts to rise the tensions up between friends. And the main character of this one is played by Thomas Schubert. And I feel like he's like a writer. He's a struggling writer. His dad is a famous writer. And of course, the need to be as good or better than your father in that regard rises up. And I feel like his character has like standoffish qualities of autism. Like he's missing those tools to connect with people. So as soon as he sees Paula Beer's character for the first time, he's like in love with her. Like he's all about her, but he's so terrible about connecting with her, and she clearly wants to connect with him and like invite him to like go for a walk on the beach or all this kind of stuff. But he's like it's so much easier for him to lean into depriving himself of those experiences and saying no and everything. It's like that. It's kind of relatable in a sense. If you don't put yourself out there, you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
But it slightly makes his character a little unlikable. I think that's just of the mainstream understanding of his character. But Paula Beer is always so incredibly likable. Like I really recommend checking out Petzold's other films, especially Undine, which is the first part of this Elements trilogy that he's doing, including this film of fire, because Undine deals with water, this one deals with fire. So I'm feeling like I'm feeling that Earth probably be the next one on that. I also found this one kind of interesting because he's pulling from Eric Rohmer Films, who's like a really famous German New Wave filmmaker. So whenever they pull stuff like this, it's super nerdy to me, and I I kind of dig into shit like that. And I kind of wish, again, we're talking about earlier talking about how North Americans love to change foreign titles. The German title for this one is Roter Himmel, which means red sky, which I think is a better title than A Fire, just personally speaking.
Way to take like all the drama out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I'm thinking. But all right, so that leaves all the new releases this week. Let's get some rebuttals from Chloe to end off our episode this week, because yeah, I know you want to talk Suitable Flesh, and I know you want to talk Titan. Suitable Flesh here. Let's get the bad out of the way.
All right. I thought Heather Graham's performance was not very good. I don't know, like maybe I was just so aware that it was Heather Graham that I just couldn't submerge myself in it. But I just feel like she wasn't at the top of her game for this.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like she had fun. Like that's like I'm like I do like her in it. I just wasn't convinced by her acting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but the actor who plays Asa Waite, I think it's Waite.
Right? Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good. I can't recall seeing him in other things. I feel like I've seen his face before, but I can't recall what else he's been in. But yeah, I really enjoyed his performance. Especially like when he's possessed by the spirit or demon or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
yeah, I just thought that it was like super cool, and he gave like the performance that he gave for that character was cringy in all the best ways. Because it's like it's a cartoonish evil demon,
Yeah.
and he's like just playing it up as much as he can. And Heather also does that really well.
And Barbara
Um,
Crampton does towards the end of the film
yeah,
as well.
Barbara was like
She's
really good.
always incredible though. Like she's like horror royalty. Judah Lewis is the actor that plays Asa White,
Right,
and
yes.
the Babysitter movies, Babysitter
Oh, yeah,
and
and
Babysitter Killer Queen.
I corrected you in editing because you couldn't remember his name either. He's just, I'm sorry, he's forgettable. He's good when you see him, but you're not gonna remember who he is.
That's fair. That's fair. Nice. And Titan. You have some feedback on Titan.
Titan was a roller coaster.
That's a movie. Like that's
Yeah.
a movie.
I had to look up multiple synopsises because I was like, what the hell did I just watch? What did I just witness?
Yeah.
And even reading like 4 different synopsises didn't give me the clearest of pictures. Again, it's a fun movie, but there were a few times where I was like, I don't understand.
That's fair. That's fair. I could totally get behind that. Well, everybody, this is an abbreviated episode as we're kind of working out the bugs and everything when it comes to doing a 2-person video podcast. So it is a little shorter this week, and I will be adding a lot more of what I was going to talk about this week to next week's. I will be kicking off next week's with Lisa Frankenstein is my big movie, directed by Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter, written by Diablo Cody. So Jennifer's Body, it's Diablo Cody, starring Catherine Newton from Freaky, Spontaneous, I don't know how many other great horror adjacent stuff has she done. Cole Sprouse is in this one, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Don't look at it at Rotten Tomatoes, it's not doing too well there, but I'm looking forward to that one. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads at The Stevel Dead. The website is stevestebbing.ca. Find the YouTube channel, which you're probably already watching right now, Steve Stebbing. Like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. New videos are out Friday at 9 a.m. Chloe, we're going to have to get you like social medias or like way to contact you. We need to get you a Letterboxd, that's for sure.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
So.
We'll educate you on Letterboxd because it's movie social media. It's killer. I love it. But
all right,
we'll show you that. But everybody, audience, welcome Chloe to the team. She is now a co-host with her father. It's the father-daughter duo in talking movies.
Yeah.
Just like it always should be. This was destiny. This was the legacy right here, Chloe.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure. Yeah. I think this is something that we've been talking about since 2012. Yeah, something like that.
So it finally happened. 12 years later, here we are. Thank you, Chloe, and we'll talk to you next week, and we'll see you all next week.